Smile though your heart is aching, smile even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by. If you smile through your tears and sorrow, smile, and maybe tomorrow you see the sun come shining through for you. I always wondered whether or not that song, what the message that song was sending. Oh, thank you, that's very nice of you. It's part of the story, you need not clap. I always wondered what the message that song was trying to send. Was it that we were supposed to hide and pretend like we weren't sad when we were feeling low? Or was it that we were charged in our lives with finding whatever tiny nugget of hope and happiness that exists within a smile, and to carry that with us to get us through that next thing, just to take the next step? I grew up as a child riddled with anxiety. I was afraid of monsters. I was afraid of kidnappers. I was afraid that people would say no to me. I was afraid that they wouldn't like me. I was always afraid. When I was 16 years old, I developed a certain amount of rage and aggressiveness because I hated that anxiety so much that I started acting out in irrational ways, in destructive ways. One day when I was 16 years old, I decided to face my fear to such a degree that I sat on a moving car and I fell off and it ran over me. That's not the story I'm going to tell you today, though. However, that experience colored the next decade of my life. It led me to believe that I couldn't believe the thoughts in my head, that I couldn't trust myself to make the right decisions, that I couldn't be safe, that I wasn't worthy of the life that I envisioned for myself. By the time I was 30, I had turned things around a little bit. I was a mother and a wife, and I was educated, and I was a professional, and I was starting to believe that maybe those things that I had told myself all those years weren't true. But I still had this one major fear, and that was that people would find out that what's true about all of us, and that is that I had no idea what the hell I was doing. None whatsoever. That I wasn't perfect, that I was just getting up every day, figuring it all out. I tried really hard to pretend like I knew what I was doing. And one day, when I was 30 years old, I was working for a mental health organization, and I had 2 little babies, and I was working really hard to make the world what I wanted it to be. I woke up and it was the morning of a big training that I was going to do for a group of individuals with disabilities and their families. And we were going to teach them to tell their stories so that they could advocate for themselves for their legislators during the General Assembly session. I had bought new clothes, and I had this phenomenal outfit, these wonderful pants, this beautiful shirt. I had 2 little babies, and this outfit made me feel like myself, right? But what happens when you have little babies and you're in the throes of your work and your life and all the things is that one day you wake up with a new outfit and you realize one very important thing. You don't have any more underwear that fit you. None of my bras worked right with this particular shirt, and yes, I'm going to talk to you about my bra tonight, okay? So, get comfortable. So I get up and I put on my clothes and I wear one of the regular bras that I wear every day, and I'm like, this is not working. And what do? Well, the anxiety kicks in, that little voice in the back of my head that says, you are useless. What do? Do I say shut up, like Kim told us to before? No. Do I get a camisole? No. Do I put on a different bra? No. I run. Desperate running through the house, downstairs, past my poor, confused husband in the kitchen, into the laundry room. I open his toolbox, and I pull out the industrial strength roll of duct tape. And I made that bra work. When I was done, I felt like $1 million. Any woman who is well endowed will understand what it feels like to be truly supported. I walked through that day like I was Heidi Klum. Got to 6 o'clock, put all of my papers and supplies for my meeting onto a cart, got in the elevator to go upstairs to the meeting room, met a couple of my colleagues in the elevator, and we were talking, chatting pleasantly, spending time with one another, when all of a sudden, one of the women got this stricken look on her face and said in a voice that to this day I still think was extremely loud, "Oh my gosh! Do you have duct tape on your boobs?" All I could hear was the blood pumping in my ears. I couldn't feel my fingers. I made a quick joke about how I obviously needed to take a trip to Victoria's Secret, and I buttoned up my shirt very quickly. And she stared at me, laughing hysterically, and she said, "Well, that brings new meaning to the term holding it all together with duct tape." I did up my shirt, and I did the only thing that I could do, and that was keep going. I went and I gave the training, and every single one of those people was able to tell their story in the end, and guess what? Here's a little secret, not one of them gave a damn what my bra looked like. Didn't matter at all. I was the butt of many jokes the rest of that evening, and the next day when they proceeded to tell every single person on the team what had happened. 2 weeks later, I celebrated my 30th birthday, and our team developed little happy celebration ideas for our big birthdays. So on the morning of my 30th birthday, I walked into my office to find it was covered from ceiling to floor in duct tape. The reason that I tell that story is a sort of giant jumping out of the cake in the face of my own anxiety. I decided that I was going to let that story be the thing that defined me. That I'm not going to let those voices tell me that I'm not good enough. I am good enough. Even if I do ridiculous things in the face of my fear and my anxiety, I get to choose what happens with those voices in my head, because a lot of the time they lie. So I want to remind you that all those things that tell you you're not good enough, they're not telling you the truth. Light up your face with gladness, hide every trace of sadness, although a tear may be ever so near. That's the time